Today we return to the world of Knight's Kingdom to take a look at the second wave of sets released back in 2005. Vladek may have been defeated at the end of last year's story, but he had no intentions of staying defeated for long. In the distant land of Ancoria, he has grown stronger than ever and seeks his revenge on the kingdom of Morcia. As King Matthias becomes aware of the growing threat, he gathers his foremost loyal knights and bestows on them new armor, shields, and swords, all infused with the power of the Heart of the Shield. It is these new, better equipped, and stronger knights that we are introduced to with this wave of action figures. Though the names of these 6 action figures might be the same as those from 2004, I think you'll be surprised to see how much is different here in Wave 2. So hey, let's take a closer look. We'll go into it in more depth in the next Revisiting Knight's Kingdom video, but allow me to give you a broad look at Season 2's story. With their new weapons and fighting abilities, the 4 knights set out to the land of Ancoria to infiltrate Vladek's forces and discover what he's up to. Along the way, Danju allows himself to be captured so that his friends can continue on the mission, but it's at this point that the team decides to split up. Jayko will go to rescue Danju, while Santis and Rascus head on to break into the Dark Fortress. The gang and the armies of Morcia reunite at the gates of Vladek's castle for a final climactic battle. Truly the stuff legends are made of. The 6 Wave 2 action figures would have originally been released in January of 2005 and would be followed up with regular playsets in July. We'll be looking at those in a future episode though, so don't worry. All of these figures would have cost $9 at the time and each came with just over 40 pieces. Up first we have Wave 2's Sir Danju. If I bring in the original Wave 1 action figure here, you can see how much has changed. There's a lot more reliance on specialized parts, which does lead to a much cleaner, smoother look than the original. But also, it's just a bit less Lego-like. Regardless, there's definitely visual improvements going on here. Perhaps the most obvious of which is the new armor plates and shield. This time around, the shield is not made out of paper, which is a huge plus. It's a highly specialized pearl silver piece with some really great paintwork and molding. Each of the figures in this wave has a brand new unique shield. The connection point is a little better than the old one, but not by much. It's just a 2x2 surface of anti-studs that connects right here to the hand. The shield can be rotated too, and there's just a lot more flexibility you get out of it versus those old paper ones. So I love to see that. The sword too, for all of the characters, is a significant upgrade. The swords too take on a more fantasy appearance and are larger and more ornate than the originals. The other big change though, of course, is in the armor, which used to be made out of far more familiar Lego pieces. These hardly seem Lego-like at all, and definitely going to be categorized as Technic, if anything. The ones for the legs have 2 pinholes, and they're only attached by one to the leg piece by the 2x2 modified tile with the pin on the top. The shoulder pads are connected to the sides with a regular black Technic pin, and these pieces are very interesting to say the least. In Danju's case, they're made from the reddish gold color, which is a relatively rare, long discontinued color, but really nice to see here, and I do think it works well. It definitely makes this action figure feel fancier than the original, which used yellow for goldish accents instead. The helmet mold is exactly the same, but the Wave 2 helmets feature printing on all of them, which is kind of fun. And again, just makes these look a lot nicer and fancier, which is the whole idea. Lego is trying to sell us the same exact characters that we all bought the year before, and so they had to go out of their way to make them a bit more special. The craziest part of all these action figures, though, takes place with the torso. The torso armor of each knight is going to be completely unique, both on the outside and the inside. As you can see, we have the wolf molded in there in place of, on the old one, again, some open studs to attach some printed bricks. Even though it's sad to see it de-Legoized a little bit, the molding work here is really cool, and there's some really subtle, ornate detailing all around the wolf. And when it's molded in this reddish gold and then painted over with the silver, looks pretty sweet. The big feature of all of these knights that really stands out though from the first wave is that they all have unique fighting abilities. In fact, Lego.com even would have given these fighting abilities names. In Danju's case, it's called the Elendon Twist Slash, Elendon being his home province. So when he uses the single gear in the back, not only does his arm go up, but it also twists. So there's 2 movements going on here. It almost looks like he's dabbing. And each knight has a unique feature associated with the gears in the back, which you have to imagine made the expense of these guys go through the roof. New specialized swords for each one, new specialized shield for each one, over specialized torsos for each one, printing on the helmets. It was kind of wild, to say the least. Even though it's a little saddening to see the removal of studs to make way for these highly specialized pieces, you gotta admit, the Wave 2 probably looks a lot better than the Wave 1 action figures. They feel much better armored, and the proportions just work a little better, even though they make use of the same skeleton. The armor plating is going to be the same throughout all 6 figures, but the unique swords, shields, and torso molds really make them stand out in their own special way. In all of the swords, you can even see the emblem of the knights crafted into it. For instance, you can kind of see the eyes of the wolf in Danju's sword. I think stuff like that is really, really cool attention to detail. Now, these knights too would have come with trading cards. And unlike Wave 1, which had 3 different versions of each action figure, that being the US version with 3 cards, the US Target exclusive with 6 cards, and the European version with no cards, there seems to only be one version of it, which could imply that at this point in Wave 2, Europe and the rest of the world would get trading cards. So do let me know if you have a definitive answer on that. Wave 2 of Knight's Kingdom introduced a whole new line of playing cards. This time, compared to Wave 1's 80, there are only 30 for Wave 2. A bit more manageable for sure, and I think all 30 of these are obtainable. Whereas with Wave 1, some of those cards I'm not convinced they exist at all. There's 3 Danju specific cards, which we'll take a look at here because they give some background on the character. Sir Danju is a legend among knights. He will need all his wisdom and experience if he is to lead the hero knights on their quest to find and capture Vladek's Dark Fortress. Sir Danju's experience and knowledge make him a skilled sword fighter. With his mighty new shield and sword from King Matthias, the Wise Knight is now almost unbeatable in battle. Sir Danju's magical new armor has allowed him to master the incredible twisting sweep attack. Now this Wise Knight of the Wolf can help his friends capture the Dark Fortress. But there you go, that's Danju. Let's take a look at Jayko next. There are certainly a lot of similarities between Danju and the rest of the characters, but there's some very noteworthy differences too. Again, it's definitely worthwhile looking at the brand new shield and sword made for this action figure. The shield bears Jayko's emblem of the hawk and is done in the dark flat gold color, another relatively rare, basically bionicle color. I didn't mention it last time, but it is worth noting that there are actually some stud connections on the shield this time around, which I do really appreciate. I haven't tested it, but I assume these studs down here are on grid. I don't know exactly what you would want to build off them, give your hawk toes, I guess, but they're there, and I appreciate that it keeps it, to some extent, looking like an actual Lego product. The armor plates on the legs and the shoulders are the same, just done here in silver instead of gold. We can check out Jayko's sword too, which is quite interesting. You can see the hawk built into the blade there, which is pretty sweet. Again, the helmet is the same mold of that introduced in Wave 1, but there's some silver printing on it this time around, which is really nice and elegant. Around the back, though, things get quite different from Danju. Jayko has 2 gears to mess with, each of which controls one of his arms. It's simple movement, the arms go up and down, but it's nice to have independent control of them, and would make this action figure all the more fun to play with. According to LEGO.com, his special move would be referred to as the Talon J Twin Strike. We've got 3 cards on Jayko as well. Sir Jayko is a young and gifted knight on the verge of greatness. He will need all his skills if he is to rescue Sir Danju, defeat Lord Vladek, and save the kingdom. To help Sir Jayko on his quest, the king uses the magical heart of the shield to give this young knight an amazing new sword and stronger shield. Now Sir Jayko's skills are greater than ever before. Sir Jayko's magical new armor enhances his speed, making him faster than ever. Now this brave knight of the hawk can strike with his sword and shield at the same time, hinting at the feature that's built into that torso. But yeah, there you go. There's Jayko. Let's take a look at Rascus. Rascus is also making use of that dark flat gold as his accent color, which I think works really well for him in particular. One of my favorite things about this specific action figure is the sword. It's a really fun mold, with the monkey tail wrapping up around the blade. Is that terribly effective in battle? but it looks cool, and that's far more important, especially when it's a fantasy toy. He's got a great looking shield too, done in silver and then painted over with the flat dark gold and dark green, and there are 3 stud points in addition to that big 2x4 in the middle. Like the others, he's got nice printing on his helmet, and then a really nicely detailed torso too. Rascus also has 2 gears to control his arms independently, but instead of moving up and down, his right shield arm moves side to side. His sword-wielding arm goes up and down just like Jayko's. But again, it's been made slightly different, and that's kind of cool. And probably terribly expensive to produce. 2005 LEGO.com referred to his special skill set as the Banterra's Mayhem Maneuver. And of course, we've got some cards on Rascus too. Sir Rascus enjoys fooling around and making fun of Sir Santis. There's a lot to unpack there, and maybe we'll save that for the next video. But he must learn to get along with his serious friend. Only together can they lower the Dark Fortress drawbridge and save the day. King Matthias has given Sir Rascus a shining new sword and shield for battle. With their help, the Joker Knight's sword fighting moves are wilder than ever before. Sir Rascus's magical new armor has enhanced his acrobatic abilities. Now this unpredictable Knight of the Monkey can use his incredible new attack, Defend move, to confuse any opponent that stands against him. I think between the color scheme and the really nice sword, this is one of the most successful upgrades to the Knights for Wave 2. One more Knight to go, and that's Sir Santis, of course. Sir Santis has a really fun accent color here with Pearl Sand Blue. Star Wars fans might recognize Pearl Sand Blue as it was the original Super Battle Droid color. I would love to have one of those things, but they are pretty rare. It came with the first official gunship. Sir Santis' special movement is by far the most unique. He doesn't have any gears on his back. His whole body twists instead. Unfortunately, the LEGO.com description has been lost to time, though if you know the name of his secret attack, do let me know. It's actually quite fun to mess around with. Your thumb just fits into this little section in his back and allows you to twist it pretty easily. It's the simple up-down motion, but the way it's accomplished makes it far more satisfying and interesting, and because he's actually twisting his body too, you do get another dimension of movement. His shield is done in flat dark gold, with red and sand pearl blue printing on it. Here too you can see the bear incorporated into the sword in the form of a claw, which I think is quite clever and looks really good too. For Santis the Strong, having a massive sword like this really does seem appropriate. Let's see what we've got for Santis facts. Sir Santis is the strongest knight in all of Morcia. He must learn to work together with fun-loving Sir Rascus if they are to break into Vladek's Dark Fortress and lower its defensive drawbridge. To help Sir Santis capture the fortress, the king uses the magic of the Heart of the Shield to create a powerful new sword and shield for Santis. Only a knight with Santis' great strength can handle them. That I believe. Sir Santis' magical new armor makes him even stronger than ever before. With a single mighty chop of his sword, this Knight of the Bear can slice through even the hardest of stone, which I'm sure is a very practical skill to have. I do love Pearl Sand Blue. It's a fun color combo. Let's take a look at the fearless ruler of these knights, King Matthias himself. 2004's King Matthias was a rather special release, made long after the original Wave 1 sets, and including some bonus features like the stickers and map that we saw in that first video. This time around he's released alongside all the other figures and costs the same amount. Though the one thing that does make him stand out still is the cape. Now unfortunately I don't actually have the correct cape, I'm just using the Wave 1 cape. It was slightly modified to only have one neck hole, but it costs $25 on Bricklink, so you're gonna have to deal with this one. I think the only significant change beyond the neck hole is the fact that it's probably just a bit smaller and lays a little better than this one. Much like the Wave 1 King Matthias, this action figure makes use of that lovely blue-violet color, the royal blue, which is pretty much exclusive to the Knight's Kingdom theme, and I think it works really well. It feels royal. It's very fitting for the king. King Matthias has the same exact helmet that he did in Wave 1 and actually has the same sword mold as Sir Santis, this time done in reddish gold. The claw works well for the lion, so no problem with that. Last wave, King Matthias shared a sword with Jayko. King Matthias also shares something else with one of the other knights, and that's the attack which is the same as Jayko's, independent gears for each arm. And I think that's totally fine. I really don't know what else they could have done at this point to make them any different. And unfortunately, the name of his special attack has also been lost to time. Though really, is it all that special if he shares it with Jayko anyway? I do have 2 of the 3 cards here about King Matthias, so let's take a look at those. King Matthias is the great and noble ruler of the Kingdom of Mercia. From atop his powerful siege tower, he leads his mighty army into battle against Lord Vladek's forces. King Matthias' magical new armor protects him in battle and enhances his already great skills with a sword and shield. He will need all its strength as he faces Vladek's army of elite Shadow Knights. My favorite thing again about this action figure is the cape. I really wish Vladek, we're about to see next, had one too. I think it could have been awesome. They did figure it out though in time for Wave 3. But as it is, we get a capeless Vladek for Wave 2. By making use of the same armor plates as the rest of the knights and the king, I feel Vladek loses a bit of his personality. His Wave 1 action figure was defined by a lot of sharp angles, and everything from the sword to the shield to the helmet just becomes a lot more smoothed out this time around. Even if he looks a lot more fierce than his Wave 1 counterpart does, he just tends to blend in with the other action figures a bit too much, unfortunately. That's why a cape might have made him stand out a bit more. Regardless, there's great design work going on here. You can see the pinchers of the scorpion in the sword. His helmet is quite fascinating. It looks to be made with dual injection molding, getting this really interesting gradient going up across his face. That I do like a lot. His attack is a pretty simple movement, controlled by a simple gear, making his arm go forward and backwards. Again, according to LEGO.com, that's referred to as the Scorpion Strike. Let's see what the cards have to say about Vladek. Lord Vladek is back. Deep within the lost kingdom of Ancoria, this Dark Knight has gathered a new army and has built a vast dark fortress. Now more powerful than ever, he wants revenge. Now, of course, Vladek didn't get his armor made for him by King Matthias, so I'm actually curious to see what this has to say. Lord Vladek has used the evil magic of the Vlad Mask to create a deadly new sword and shield. Beware of his dark power, brave knights of Mercia. It's also worth pointing out that you could obtain a combo pack of Sir Danju and Lord Vladek. It also came with, I believe, a foam sword and helmet, which was kind of funky. It was actually the only Wave 2 action figure set my brother and I had. So that's the Wave 2 action figures. Definitely a step up from Wave 1, but it also comes at the cost of looking like actual LEGO products. There'll be yet one more wave of these action figures, and by the end, they'll be even more specialized. Regardless of all that though, the figures do look really good and are far more playable than the Wave 1 ones. Than the Wave 1 ones? I guess that's right, were. New and different attacks, actually having hard plastic shields, and better looking armor. There's a lot to like here. More than anything though, I really have to commend the work of the parts designers. A lot of love went into crafting the very special swords, shields, and torsos that make each of these characters unique. Next time we return to the world of Knight's Kingdom, we'll be tackling the Wave 2 playsets. We're going to break down the story a bit more and see how all of these characters here fit into it. But thank you as always for watching, have a fantastic life, and I'll see you next time.